Howdy hey, WHOJEUM here, and today I'm going to be talking about Big Finish's recently released Past Lives, the first entry in their Diamond celebration for the 60th anniversary, Once and Future. Starting off with my spoiler-free thoughts, so if you haven't seen it yet, you're safe for now. I thought the story was brilliant, and if you aren't aware of the premise, then I'll go ahead and read on the main synopsis listed on the Big Finish page here. The Time War. The Doctor has been injured and brought to a Time Lord field hospital. His body glows with energy, but this is no regeneration into a future form. Instead, the Doctor's past faces begin to appear as he flits haphazardly between incarnations. Staggering to his TARDIS, the Doctor sets out to solve the mystery of his degeneration. Who has done this to him? How and why? From the Earth to the stars, across an array of familiar times and places, he follows clues to retrace his steps, encountering old friends and enemies along the way. Tumbling through his lives, the Doctor must stop his degeneration before he loses himself completely. Settling at his fourth incarnation, the Doctor goes in search of the monk, with a vague memory that he had something to do with this degeneration. On Earth, the monk is meddling, of course, bringing Sarah Jane Smith to the future unit HQ to steal a device for an alien race. The Doctor must help Kate Stewart and Osgood foil an invasion before he can confront the monk about what he knows. But yeah, this story was a very good opening story. The music and sound design are all top-notch, and the core story here is a fun listen with some twists and turns along the way. One of my particular favorite moments came from Osgood's living room, of all places. I won't say exactly what happens, but it's a nice little moment. And the stuff they have between the future Doctor and the past Sarah Jane all play on that sad sense of nostalgia. Mixing modern-day unit with elements of classic Who in Four and Sarah, and some Big Finish originals in Rufus Hound's version of the monk, who is always a delight, this story serves well as one big part of a celebratory series. I particularly loved seeing Osgood fangirl out about getting to meet Four and Sarah, and in general, the inevitable connections drawn between Kate and her father led to some touching moments as well. Overall, if you haven't heard it yet, or you were looking to see whether it would be a good story to pick up, then yes, I'd highly recommend it. It is a bit short for the $11 price range, but if these are characters you're interested in, or in general the premise sounds at all interesting, I'd highly recommend it. Going into slightly more spoilery territory from now on though, so if you don't want to be spoiled, or you haven't listened to it yet, buyer beware. I mean, you're not buying anything. I mean, you're buying that, maybe, but you know what I mean. How do the villains fare? And what is their plan? Well, at first it looks like the monk is up to his usual no-good meddling, and for what it's worth, I mean, that is what he's doing, albeit for a different cause than usual. The monk has these nanobombs injected into his neck after a run-in with a new alien race called the Hirath. They are the ones that look really shittily AI created here in the cover art, which, yeah, we'll get to that in a bit. But ignoring the dodgy tactics used to picture them up front, the actual threat serves its purpose well at getting the monk involved, which is always a dub, as Rufus Hound is easily one of my favorite Big Finish regulars. Side recommendation, but if you haven't already, please do yourself a favor and listen to the Missy series. The monk pops up all over the place there, with the third box set even being entirely dedicated to him and Missy. And their dynamic is so much fun. He keeps that sense of ignorant pride about himself here as well. One of my favorite moments from the story that made me audibly chuckle was when he kidnapped Sarah Jane Smith. The scene ends with him threatening her with a gun, and we cut away. The next time we go back to the scene, the Doctor meets up with Sarah, attempting to set off a fire alarm to get out of the Black Archive where the monk had taken her. The Doctor asks where the monk is, and Sarah Jane blatantly states something along the lines of, "Oh, he was pointing a gun at me, so I slugged him." The Doctor then goes over and finds him pathetically passed out on the floor. As for the Hirath, while they serve a somewhat generic role throughout, with their king looking to use the device from said archive to wake up a bunch of sleeping soldiers, it ends in an interesting note, where the king ends up accidentally killing all of his kin. Now, normally, this is where the big generic villain starts madly trying to heal the Doctor and ends up getting himself killed along the way, but here they actually do something a little bit different, and having the king kind of realize, yeah, there's not really any point in this anymore, and he gives himself up. It's a small thing, but for some reason that made me realize how rare something like that actually is. He gave a sense of honor to them that actually felt fleshed out. And I actually wouldn't be opposed to seeing a prequel story of some kind to this that explores the apparent previous story where Four, Sarah, and the Brigadier all stopped them for the first time. Although, before that, I'd throw my vote at a potential Monk and Sarah Jane Smith box set of some kind. The ending of the story sees the Doctor off to go find his daughter, Jenny, while about to degenerate again, and as he has to dash off, he has a heartfelt moment with Sarah before trusting her safe return to the monk. Which just sets up the idea for so many side adventures that could happen along the way, so Big Finish, please, grant my wish and make this. Also make Missy Series 4, you coward! Finally, I just want to touch on a controversy that recently arose around Once and Future range. Specifically one involving the cover art, and I briefly mentioned it before. As it turns out, the person making these covers, Lee Johnson, has been using AI for them. This was first noticed and most obvious with the Artist of the End of Time cover, the upcoming story in this set. But in retrospect, people found out that Past Lives also sports this, albeit better hidden here than there. This is a pretty shitty and lazy thing to do in general, but the fact that AI art runs off of stealing artwork from other people without credit just makes it even worse. I'm not against using AI in some very minimal facets, as long as you do like 99% of the work yourself. Maybe just as a tool to help you out in figuring out an idea, or in straightening lines, or what have you, but generating entire creatures, robots, or clothes, and then slapping actors' heads onto the cover before calling it a day is just scummy. Now, I don't think this is entirely Big Finish's fault. The rest of their recent covers look fine, and it looks like this is just Lee Johnson doing this. But I hope that the future stories that have yet to be printed, we can see a different artist actually make, art for them. As it's so disappointing that the people responsible for the big 60th event are just churning out this shit. Although the special edition cover looks fire. Really gives off the Unbound vibes. But with that being said, that's about it for my review. In total, I'd give Past Lives a solid 8.5 out of 10. A solid story with great acting across the board, a fun and interesting plot, and great interactions and fan service that don't feel too heavy-handed at all. Although I hope not every story ends with the generic, I can't help you, but this other fan-favorite character that I happen to know about can, so go find them now, Doctor, as you conveniently degenerate at the story's climax. It's a bit abrupt, and while I'm fine with it just happening once, I'd rather see more unique incorporations of degeneration in future stories. Maybe having one where the Doctor keeps switching between two forms mid-story, and he's busy arguing with himself the whole time. Oh, and before I forget, they make a tease about the Doctor not being sure what happens if he goes back too far beyond his first incarnation, and by God, this better be a tease for the Fugitive Doctor box set, or her first appearance here. Big Finish, if you can surprise us with a Joe Martin cameo, or better yet, dedicated episode, I think I might just have to kiss ya. But anyway, that's about it. Catch you on the flip side.